Since then, I've talked to a lot of mothers who work. All of them share the same guilt that we are not good moms. I can now multitask. So there have been times, even now, I'm doing a meeting, I'm looking at my son's homework, and I'm cooking food. Kids, that especially when they start going to school, almost every month or two, they fall ill.
Yeah.
And like Murphy's Law, right? It always happens when you have a very critical deliverable. There was this lady, she was being evaluated, and she had gone on maternity leave after 5 months, right? So her rating last year was exemplary, but this year the rating that was being given to her was successful.
All right. Surbhi, now we would like to zoom in into a slightly different aspect of your career. Uh, Tell us about the good, bad, and ugly, about the situations where you had to step back. It could be parenting, giving birth, getting married. On how do you deal with that, and what can be the advice to people who are stepping into that phase in their lives?
Yeah. So a lot of times, and this is very typical of maybe Indian women, or that's my perspective, but there's a good chunk of women that kind of churn off from the workspace after they get married. And then another step comes when they have kids, right? So I've been lucky in both these steps. I've met my husband while we were working in the same team. So there was no question of not supporting me. Definitely, there were certain scenarios or certain situations in which I had to give a little more time to family. Like supposing some relatives were coming over for the first time after our marriage to our house. That time, I had to take a break from office and focus a little on the home part of it. But those were small and quite in between. And then when we had our son, actually my husband is he's from a very orthodox part of Haryana, where they actually believe that raising kids is a woman's job. But and maybe when we got married, that time he might have believed the same. But to his credit, he came a long way, right? Considering what rest of the people in where he has grown up with continue to believe, he's been completely different because he's taken care of Harry more than I did. So to such an extent that at that time the paternity leave used to be 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So at the end of 2 weeks, my hands were literally shaking that now Pankaj is going to go to office. Who will take care of this kid? Because he was the one who was doing everything. I mean, he was the one timing the feeds. I didn't even know how to hold a child, so he was helping me hold the child by. He was with me all the way. So I was not a very hands-on mother, and maybe it's and since then I've talked to a lot of mothers who work. All of them share the same guilt that we are not good moms, right? So when I came here to Bangalore, I had serious doubts. Ki, will I be able to manage? Like who's gonna feed him? Who's gonna? Well, I had no confidence in myself, and I think the good thing that came out of moving to Bangalore was I grew as a parent because I built that confidence in myself that hey, I can take care of my own child. It's not like I need my parents always there with me. When you have more responsibility, like you have to go and get your child at 5:30 from Sarjapur Road, it's going to take me 45 minutes. So you end up planning your day a bit better. I feel that part has made me more efficient. I can now multitask. So there have been times even now, I'm doing a meeting, I'm looking at my son's homework, and I'm cooking food. So it's helped me multitask, it's helped me evolve more as a manager of my personal time. So I think that part has helped me. I wouldn't say it's held me back at any time.
Tell us about a stressful time that you have faced. Like maybe it's demanding at work, and suddenly for some reason it becomes demanding at home.
At
Maybe
home also.
people showing up or something, and there is a critical delivery out there which
Yeah.
cannot wait.
Yeah.
Has that happened? Any experience you could
That
share?
always happens when you have kids. You know that especially when they start going to school, almost every month or two they fall ill.
Yeah.
And like Murphy's Law, right? It always happens when you have a very critical or deliverable or critical meeting. I think the key is to balance both. It's not that your office needs to have the highest priority always, or your child needs to have the highest priority always. And it's very rare that both of them would require your attention at that very time. Right? Those situations are very rare, and yeah, when those do occur, you can take a judgment call. For me, it's always been family, but it can be anything for anybody. But I think the main thing is to whenever you look at work-life balance, right? It is important to not analyze it over a point of time. You need to look at it over a period of time, because there is going to be a period where your work is going to take more precedence, and there is going to be a period where your life is going to take a more bigger precedence. So, and you need to oscillate between the two and balance it.
Got
So,
it.
I mean, the time where both of them require your attention, those are
It's rare.
is very
But
rare.
when we overthink about these situations, that's
Yeah.
where it starts getting blurry.
Yeah, definitely.
Got it. So, has there been a situation, let's say, where you prioritized life ahead of work, and then like the priorities change after a certain time? Like
Yeah.
giving birth, for example, is one thing. For example, if somebody is on a bull run in career, and then they need to decide
That's
to-
actually a very unfortunate reality of the world we live in, right? So recently I was part of a performance review. Not recently, been quite some time, and it's for some team that I just happened to be there, and there was this lady. She was being evaluated, and she had gone on maternity leave after 5 months, right? So her rating last year was exemplary, but this year the rating that was being given to her was successful because she worked for 5 months. Now that I felt was a bit unfair because a person going on maternity is a medical condition.
the capability has not
His
changed.
capability has not changed. Maybe out of those 5 months, last 2 months, she was just doing a kid, which is a part of her job, right? So she should be evaluated for 5 months. And it's not like she went on a cruise and left her job. It's a medical condition, right? So, and it's a government authorized leave. So I feel that this is a very common thing that happens to women, because see, if you ding that woman for this year, it's not just this year that you're dinging her for. She might be on the verge of promotion that has taken a step back, right? She might have put in 2 years before that, and then by chance she got pregnant and her this thing. So I think this part is really there everywhere in the industry. I don't know if people speak about it enough, but it's a reality of the world that we live in. It's not just this, right? It is about, in general, women in tech. Um there is a great deal of friction, sometimes overt, sometimes you don't even realize it, that women in tech have to face on a daily basis. Over time, you become desensitized to it. But there is definitely a friction that there's that artificial extra step in the
Yeah.
ladder
Yeah.
that you have to take
Yeah.
to actually reach.
Yeah. No, while we wish that it doesn't exist like this, but at the same time, we are also where the world is not
Yeah,
there out there.
definitely.
So, Uh, how do you train your mind, telling it that
Yeah.
it's okay and we have to surpass that? That
Yeah.
requires some bravery.
That does. In fact, I'll tell you an incident when I just started working. So so we were very new to Jira. We came to know what are bugs. Okay, this is how we resolve issues. So there was this time in a period of I think 1 week, I'd resolved 3 bugs. So my manager at that time, I'm not sure if he was did it on purpose or it was just probably it was just something he didn't think too much about. But he said, "You, I didn't expect this of you that you would solve 3 issues." So he made everybody stand up and clap for me, although it was not that big a deal. So at that time, so those were the incidents that kind of hit you a little, and especially when you're so early on in your career. So that definitely hit me a little. But a similar incident which happened now, I barely notice it, right? So over time, you kind of get desensitized to all of this. As an IC, it's probably better for you if you desensitize yourself. But when you switch over to the management line, you cannot be desensitized to it because it's your job to fix all of this,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that is actually a very big difference between the
Yes.
IC and manager mindset.
Absolutely. Got it. Do you think, again, a scenario where there are more women leaders at senior positions, they will be more empathetic to these scenarios and they can make certain things or certain decisions in a different manner than.
Yeah, definitely that would help, and not just directly helping women. I would say just seeing more women around sensitizes the collective whole to seeing women in positions of authority. For example, when I was a senior architect, I faced certain scenarios in which, because at senior architect level, you have very few women. So having a man tell you the same thing would be slightly different than having a woman tell you the same thing. So there have been times when I've, had to explain a lot more or give a lot more uh, evidence or literary evidence that I've had to quote to get the same point across. But I see it more as a starting entry barrier. Once you make that image for yourself, whether you're a woman or a man, I think it after that you're treated the same. But there's a definite entry barrier, and having more women in the industry, in tech roles especially, will break that
Those
entry
barriers.
barrier a little bit.
Very rightly. Let's take a segue and do a little bit of a zoom in into the parenting aspect of it. Since you said you and your husband both are engineers in companies where the responsibilities are high and careers are demanding. So, how do you ensure that your kids get adequate time from both of you, irrespective of the stress levels you face in your companies? For example, a demanding project and an exam can happen at the same
Yeah.
time. They are running mutually exclusive of each other. So, how do you ensure uh, that you're imparting good values, taking care of your child, and without compromising on the other side?
So good way to think about it is HA. So we have high availability. So if at times if I'm not available, my husband takes over,
Great.
or if he's not available, I take over. Having said that, definitely working moms live with this guilt that we are not good parents or good mothers, or they. So I have friends who are stay-at-home moms, I can see how much their kids are benefiting because they are giving so much more time to their kids. So it at times it's very hard to continue in your job knowing that it is coming at the expense of something. Um, but then when I think about it a little more deeply, uh, so this thing that I have to work is actually very deeply ingrained in me. So my father never wanted my mother to work because his mother had worked. So she did not have that much time for kids. So he thought that kids do better when mothers don't work. So as a result, my mother did not work, but she was highly educated. So during from my childhood itself, she told me that you just have to work. There's no question. So there was never any doubt in my mind that I have to work. Even when I think that I need to leave my job and stay at home, more than anything else, I'm actually scared of how I'm going to break this news to my mother because it's a non-negotiable part with her. So that part has actually greatly influenced that I know that I have to work. I know that there is not enough time that I can give to my child as much as I could have given had I not been working. So I take help as much as I can. My mother teaches my son every day for an hour, and I send him to some classes. Uh, Recently, I changed his school because so that he goes in a better, more wholesome environment. So I take help wherever I can.
Great. So all in all, like there is never one scripted way. You
Never,
try
yeah.
to
You just do
complement
the best
things,
you can.
and the best decisions are taken
Yeah.
at that time. Great. Uh, Anything like you would want to go back and change in your tenure as a parent, where like we do have something like regret would be a wrong word, but something if given a chance again, go back 5 years and
Yeah.
try to change something.
Yeah.
What would that be?
So, in fact, I have this friend. She's taught me a lot about how to be a good parent. My husband also keeps telling me that learn from her, follow her methodology. So I think that the reading habit that I never focused on for Ari, which incidentally my parents really focused on for me, and I really missed the boat with Ara. But I think if I could go back, that is one thing I would definitely change. I'm trying to change it now. It's a little difficult, but I think he'll catch up eventually.
Oh,
But
certainly. And you've been a voracious reader. You might just want to
yeah,
ensure that he doesn't get distracted by Harry Potter on his
yeah,
placement day.
yeah, yeah,
Other than that, reading is
yeah,
a good
yeah.
habit, definitely. Great conversation,
Yeah.
Surbhi. Thanks for your time and
Thank you.
lovely learnings for our audience. So,
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Thank
It was a
you.
pleasure.
Yeah, same here.